mush, or whatever they say to those race dogs. Hi, huge movie fanatic Nate, returning yet again for another solo review here of winter-related movies here that I'm reviewing in the winter. This review is for Walt Disney's Iron Will, which is a movie that I never would have probably seen except for I briefly knew the daughter of this guy who has a really bit part in this movie, Henry Novotny, who plays Kaiser Bill in the movie because it was shot in one of the Dakotas or Minnesota or something like that. So someone that I had briefly known in the mid-90s, her dad was Kaiser Bill from the movie. So that's the only reason why I ever saw this movie. But it turns out to kind of be a pretty good movie. And I actually found the Blu-ray at Half Price Books for, I just laughed because this is like the millionth time I've said this, at Half Price Books for $3 years ago, and I just rewatched it because I knew I was going to do these winter-related movie reviews. And I'd give this movie a solid 3 stars. It's really, sometimes I don't necessarily love Disney shit because a lot of times for me they follow so much of the same formula over and over and over, which this does too, because it's like, oh, is he going to win? I don't know. It's the same thing where it's like, he's going to win or whatever, which I think he does, right? Doesn't he win? I can't remember. So anyway, Kevin Spacey's in this before really Kevin Spacey was Kevin Spacey. So, but first of all, let me say that the kid in this movie is freaking great. And I did review The Rocketeer. Of course, none of you kind folks are really have really watched that review. But what I mentioned in that movie is, having seen the comics after the fact, I thought that Bill Campbell, in retrospect, was kind of tall and old for the character of Cliff Secord. And when I rewatched Iron Will just within the last month or so, I was like, oh man, no, if that kid could have been Cliff Secord. Like in the movie, he's like perfect, like everything, age and everything for Cliff Secord. And he would have been probably better than Bill Campbell. When I watched the movie, I'm like, that is Cliff Secord. He's right out of the comics. So that was one of the things I took away having watched it recently. But Iron Will really starts kind of cool. And takes place obviously in the winter and shot in the Dakotas and or Minnesota, and the movies really takes advantage of our horrible winters and really makes it winter look kind of romantic and beautiful, and it's a really fantastically shot movie, and actually the score is really great, and parts of it are used in the trailer of True Lies. Actually, having rewatched the movie, I realized that. The score is phenomenal, and the kid is pretty goddamn great in the movie. And one of the sad things, like I have a problem with Disney movies about the movie, which really kind of sucks, is that the character's dad, gets killed and swept away by the river and all this and that. And that's kind of sad, really, right at the beginning of the movie, and that's really kind of sad. But this movie is a period movie. I think it's supposedly, possibly based on a real thing kind of a movie. One of those. But it's one of the things I like about the movie, of course, is it's a period movie that takes place, I think, before the First World War, because that asshole at the beginning is like, you're gonna be ready when your country needs you to fucking die for no fucking good reason. He doesn't say that because it's a Disney movie, like PG, but I think it's PG. But that's what he basically means, Are you ready to die for your country? Yeah, I'll be 18 soon, sir. But so that's what I was getting at. Is it's a period movie that's done very well, and all the period aspects and everything like that. Really, I'm a big sucker for like early 20th century era, and whenever a movie takes place in that era, and if they handle it right, which I have said before they didn't in the movie Lawless. If they handle it right and with the era right and with respect, which I believe this movie does, and obviously Rocketeer does just beautifully in the movie, which I have to me and Matt should review someday. Aviator, which I'm a big fan of as well. This movie really embraces the era, I feel, and really respects it and all this and that. One of the things, getting back to the Disney, tried and true formula that I didn't really like about this movie is just how you have to have this asshole guy, this whatever he is, Norwegian or whatever the hell he is, just the bad guy. You know, it's always the bad guy. It's gotta be a bad guy. He's trying to foil the plan of the kid. You know, and that's one thing that I don't always like to have in a movie. It's just like, you know, the parent has to die. You gotta have a bad guy. You gotta have this against you, that. But 3 stars at the end of the day. It's really kind of a well shot and cut movie. In addition to just being, you know, taking full advantage of the beautiful but cold and, you know, scenery of you know, the Midwest in the winter time. And the kid is phenomenal in the movie, and Henry Novotny is, you know, his brief appearance as Kaiser Bill is, you know, it happens. It does definitely happen in that little tune. My name is Kaiser Bill. I'm the fella you want to kill. We've nearly had our fill. Go home, Kaiser Bill. Go home, Kaiser Bill. But so yeah, I never would have ever watched this movie had it not been for the fact that I briefly knew Kaiser Bill. So I guess that pretty much does it. I mean, you know, Iron Will is a strong, for me, 3-star movie, and it's a good winter one that, like I said before in some of these previous winter reviews, I'd never probably watch in the summer, but I watch it in the winter. Thank you very much for watching. Mush, psh, mush, and the dogs. You know, the dogs were kind of cool, and there was that one dog who was like, you know, the head of the pack or whatever, who actually turned in some performances, and he's like, you know, he didn't listen to the kid at first, and then he ended up listening to the kid, and the dog actually saved the kid's life at one point where the kid fell asleep and the dog dragged him back to the place. So it's a pretty, you know, it's a pretty entertaining movie. 3 stars. Thanks very much for watching. Mush.